Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I recently did a unhaul video, and when I go through my bookshelves to see which books to unhaul, I usually go by the question, do I see myself rereading these books? Because I move quite often, so I just can't keep a ton of books, and if I don't see myself rereading them at some point, I just don't feel the need to really hold on to these books. So today I thought we'd talk about 10 books or a series that I just can reread basically all the time. And some of these are books I don't talk about very often on my channel, so this is just a recommendation list. If you haven't read the books, then I would recommend you read them. And if you have read them, I think they hold up on reread very well, at least when I have reread them. And I have reread all of these before. I was just as engaged as I was when I read them the first time. So let's get into the list. Now the first one isn't really a surprise probably, but for me that would be the Hunger Games series. I have reread this series multiple times, like the original trilogy, not the weird like prequel book. And I don't know, they just hold up so well even if you know what's going to happen. I think that they're just written in such an engaging way that I just read through them without a thought, basically. I just am so engaged in the story. Now, if you for some reason don't know, the Hunger Games series is about a world where there is something called the Hunger Games, and that is basically a game where teenagers are set against each other to fight to the death for the entertainment of this dystopian society. And there's so much more to this. When I reread the books, I started appreciating the last book, Mockingjay, more each time I read it. Like the first time around I didn't love it, but it just grows on me. And yeah, I love this series so much. Next up we have the Morrigan Crow books, so starting out with Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This series so far has 3 books in it. The 4th one is announced for the fall, so I really hope it comes out this year. But I'm so prepared to reread these books again. I haven't reread the 3rd book yet, just because I wait for the 4th book to be out to reread all of them. But the 1st and 2nd book are just so great for rereading, and again, similar to the Hunger Games, I think even though you know what is going to happen, just the characters are so endearing in this one, and you just want the best for all of them. Also, this world is so imaginative, and it's just, I just went in with the same like enthusiasm, whatever you call that in English, it's a horrible word to pronounce, as I did when I read them the first time. Now in this one we follow a young girl called Morrigan Crow who is supposed to be cursed, and so everything that goes wrong in her town is always blamed on her curse, and she is supposed to die on her like 12th or 13th birthday. But then this weird man called Jupiter North shows up and takes her to this magical city, and there she has to compete in some trials to be allowed to stay there. And I love this series so much. As I said, amazing characters, such a great world to explore, and I need that 4th book. Then this might be a bit of an odd one, but it just works for me, and that is The Afterlife of Holly Chase. Now this is a like winter, like December kind of book, and I reread it every other year in December. And this is a retelling of A Christmas Carol, but we're following a teenage girl who is like very spoiled and rich, and when she's, I don't know, like 15, 16, something like that, she dies because she is involved in kind of a car accident, kind of like a freak accident, but she doesn't really die. She just has to work for this company where they try to save a Scrooge every Christmas. And this has a love story in it as well, but because we do have this like weird time loop situation, it's not that simple. And I just really like the way this book deals with it as well. And just overall, I just have such a good time with this book. Like, it just gives me Christmassy feels, it makes me happy, and the main character is definitely not very likable, but I still felt for her so much because we can see how she's just impacted by things that have happened in her life that have not been great overall. Next up, a book I really don't talk a lot about, but it is one of those books that just hit me at the right time, and that is All the Truth That's in Me. This is a bit of a weird book. This is historical fiction. We follow a young girl who can't talk, and this is kind of like settlers times. I don't know if it says specifically. I never really figured it out. I'm not really good with like American history, so I wouldn't know. But it just has that feel to it. It's a very like rough environment. She lives in this village where people just look down on her because she can't talk, and there's something very horrible that happened to her when she was young. But this also has a romance. She has a crush on a person, and this book is told in second person narration. Now I know a lot of people hate it. I don't know why, because I love it. I think second person narration is amazing, so I love this book. Also, the main character has my name, which is very rare, so I also love it for that. And this is just a book that just pulled me in from the first page, and yeah, it's just very rare for me to have books where I'm just sucked into the story like that and I just can't put them down, and this is definitely one of those. Next up, a book that right now is getting a little bit more popular again, but I loved it from the day I first read it, which has been a while ago, and that is My Lady Jane. Now, this has been recently made into a TV show on Amazon Prime. I haven't watched it. I'm scared to watch it because the trailer looks like they took the coolest part out of it. So let me explain. This is, again, like a historical fiction with magic, so it is definitely fantasy, and the historical accuracy is not very big. This is a very funny, snarky book. We follow three characters, and one of them is Lady Jane, and she was like the queen that reigned for the shortest amount of time. It was just a couple of days in real history, like this person existed, and we learn about what is going on there. Now, basically, we're following the descendants of Henry VIII as they fight for the throne, and we do have this thing going on with like the Catholics and then the English Church. So we do have a metaphor for this religious aspect, since we have characters who are just human, and then we have other characters that can turn into animals. And so basically the human ones are the Catholics, and the ones who can turn into animals are the like English Church people. And they hate each other and they're at war with each other. And through this metaphor, we get retold the history of Britain during that time. And it's just so funny to me. Like, I laughed out loud with this book, and it's just great. And I loved it on Reread as well. I reread it like 2 years ago, and it's just great. Read the book, please. Don't watch the show, read the book. Because I think they took the whole like changing into animal thing out. And that is like the funniest part, because like some characters don't really have a lot of control over when they change, and it's really funny. Next up, one that sounds like it deals with animals, but in fact does not, is Pet. And this is a very short book, so great to reread. You don't really need a lot of time. You can reread it in an afternoon. And this one, we have a utopian world where there is no more monsters. And we follow our main character, a young trans girl, as she discovers a monster named Pet in one of the paintings of her mother. And this is such a great book. Like, I get goosebumps just thinking about how much I love this book, and I would just highly recommend it. It deals with very tough topics, specifically like harming children and exploiting and grooming children, but it's amazing. It just deals with this question of what monsters look like and how can we make our community safe against monsters and stuff like that, and I really enjoy this book a whole lot. Then we have A King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. Now, I have not reread Rule of Wolves yet, but This duology is my whole life. Like, I love this duology so much. I know I'm in the minority there, but I did not like the original Grisha trilogy. I did really enjoy the Six of Crows duology, but the King of Scars duology is for me. It was written for me. Leigh Bardugo got up one morning and said, I'm gonna write a book series for her. And that her is me. And I loved it. So yeah, these characters that we're looking at, especially Soya. Soya is my favorite character. Now, if you don't know, if you want to read the duology, you definitely need to read all of the Grisha books before. It won't make any sense if you don't. But in this one, we follow 3 characters who have already been in previous books, but they haven't been like the central characters. We have Soya, Nina, and Nikolai, and all of these are my favorites. And for them to get like this series and to focus on them and the way that it deals with saints and miracles and stuff like that, I loved it. It does bring back some characters that we never expected to see again, so that's very interesting as well. And yeah, I just, the ending of Rule of Wolves is just the best thing. This duology is just the best thing ever. Okay, talking about my actual favorite series of all time, we obviously need to talk about The Lord of the Rings. Now, I don't think I need to say what this one is about. We do have a world with a Dark Lord and he lost his ring, and a hobbit finds it and has to destroy it. Yeah, this series is just my favorite, and I have reread it millions of times and I will continue to do so. I just got this beautiful edition of the English text last year for Christmas, so I will definitely read that for the first time very soon. So far I've only read the like German editions because that's the ones I grew up with, but yeah, this is also a huge part of how I learned English, which might sound strange. But when I was a teenager and I read the book for the first time, I did have this like little booklet with a lot of the poems in English, and so I would translate the poems that are in Lord of the Rings, and then I would like check my translations against the ones that are in my German editions and stuff. So very nerdy, very geeky, but it helped in some way. So I love the Lord of the Rings, and if people don't love the books, I honestly don't understand that. Okay, next one is the Monstress comics. I have reread the first volumes of those many times because I try to reread them whenever like new ones come out. I don't always start right at the beginning, but just at least a couple of the volumes to get back into the story. And I think with each reread you just understand more of the world, which is really helpful because it can be a little bit overwhelming when you first start out with the series. But we've now made it 8 volumes in, so I think that all of the like storylines and everything like that has become a lot clearer by now, and just the art style is amazing. So yeah, this is definitely a series where I will reread at least some volumes this year, definitely, because I still haven't read the 8th one, and I think the 9th one might come out this year as well. And last but not least, I wanted to talk about Legendborn. This is a YA series that is a retelling of the King Arthur legend, quite a loose one, because we're looking at a young girl who goes to this kind of university early program for teenagers, and she gets sucked into the secret society where we have the descendants of like the Knights of the Round Table, I guess. And yeah, it's just really good. It's very adventurous, but it deals with like deeper themes because it also deals with like racism and the way that, you know, knowing your like family, where it came from and who your descendants are and stuff like that in the like face of like slavery and stuff. It deals with those topics and it's just really good, and I definitely enjoyed it just as much on reread. Again, I think that the characters are also so intriguing that I just fell right back into the world when I reread it, and I'm also like really excited to get the 3rd book and have a reason to reread this one again. Okay, so that would be some recommendations of books that I can reread time and time again with no problem at all. I would definitely love to hear some books that you love to reread. I'm very intrigued to know, like, what are the types of books that just work for you again and again and again. And I hope you have a lovely day. Leave a like or a nice comment. I'll talk to you soon. Bye!